Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another exciting episode of our podcast. Today, we're diving into a topic that I guarantee will inspire you to take action. Here's a question for you. Did you know that learning a new language can rewire your brain, make you smarter, and even improve your memory, no matter how old you are? That's right. Forget what you've heard about it being too late. Science says otherwise, and so do we. I'm Adam, your host, and today I'm joined by someone who's living proof that it's never too late to embrace a new language. Meet Sophia, a multilingual educator, coach, and someone who's helped hundreds of people unlock their potential through language learning. Sophia, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. I'm so excited to be here, and I love that you started with a mythbuster because so many people are held back by this idea that language learning is only for kids. Spoiler alert, it's not.
Exactly. And to kick things off, I have to ask, what's the funniest or most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you while learning a new language?
Oh, Adam, there are so many. But one time I was trying to say I'm excited in German, and instead I accidentally said I'm aroused. Let's just say the room got really quiet.
That's priceless. And it just goes to show that mistakes are part of the journey, right? In today's episode, we're going to break down why it's never too late to learn a language, how to overcome the fear of starting, and how this process can literally change your life. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get started. Let's tackle one of the biggest misconceptions about learning languages. The idea that it's too late for adults. You hear it all the time. Kids are like sponges. Adults can't keep up. People think their brains lose the ability to learn as they age. Sophia, is there any truth to this? Is language learning really just for the young?
Not at all, Adam. It's one of the most persistent myths, but science tells a different story. Kids do have an edge when it comes to picking up accents because their brains are still wiring speech patterns. But adults, we bring strengths kids don't have, like the ability to analyze grammar, recognize patterns, and relate what we're learning to our existing knowledge. The brain's ability to adapt, called neuroplasticity, doesn't stop as we age. It just works differently. For adults, learning a language is like adding an extension to an existing house. You're building on what's already there, which can make the process more efficient. Studies show adults in their 40s, 50s, and even 70s can learn new languages fluently. The key isn't your age, it's your mindset. If you believe you can do it and commit to regular practice, your brain will adapt.
That's really encouraging. I love the analogy of adding to a house. But what about another popular belief? People say, if you want to learn a language, you have to live in a country where it's spoken. That sounds logical, right? Immersion equals fluency. What do you think?
That's another big misconception. Immersion can help, but it's not a requirement. Plenty of people move abroad and don't become fluent because they stick to survival phrases, spend time with people who speak their native language, or don't engage deeply with the culture. On the other hand, someone living in their own country who practices daily, using apps like Duolingo or Memrise, watching TV shows in the target language, or joining online communities, can achieve fluency without ever traveling. Technology has revolutionized language learning. You can have conversations with native speakers on platforms like HelloTalk or Tandem. It's not about where you live. It's about your consistency, creativity, and effort. A little bit every day, 15 minutes even, can lead to amazing progress over time.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective. You're saying we don't need to uproot our lives. We just need to build consistent habits where we are. But there's still that lingering question. Is it ever too late to start? Can someone in their 60s or 70s realistically learn a new language?
Absolutely, Adam. It's never too late. Research shows older adults benefit immensely from learning a language. It sharpens memory, enhances focus, and even reduces the risk of dementia. Think of your brain as a muscle. It grows stronger the more you challenge it. When you're older, you also have a deeper sense of purpose and discipline, which can give you an advantage. The hardest part isn't learning, it's overcoming the fear of starting. Once you start, you'll find that every new word, every phrase you learn, is a win. The key is to set small, achievable goals. You don't need to aim for fluency right away, just focus on learning a few words a day. Celebrate the progress. Every time you practice, you're rewiring your brain and proving to yourself that growth is always possible. Age is just a number when it comes to learning.
I love that, Sophia. It's such an empowering message. To anyone listening who's been holding back because they think it's too late or too hard, this is your reminder. You absolutely can do it. Your brain is ready whenever you are. All right, Sophia, we've laid out the science and busted the myths, but now let's talk about real people. There's nothing more motivating than hearing stories of individuals who took the plunge and learned a new language, even later in life. Do you have any inspiring examples that show it's never too late to start?
Oh, I love this part, Adam. Absolutely. One of my favorites is Maria, a retired nurse in her 60s. She grew up with Italian grandparents but had never really learned the language. When she retired, she felt like it was the perfect time to finally reconnect with her heritage. At first, she just started with 10 minutes a day using an app like Duolingo, and then gradually added more resources. She watched Italian TV shows, listened to podcasts, and even started writing letters to family members. Fast forward to 2 years later, and Maria was conversing fluently in Italian. Last year, she went to Italy for the first time and had full conversations with her relatives. That moment, when she was able to speak with her cousins in their native tongue, was life-changing for her. It was a powerful reminder that no matter your age, if you're committed, the sky's the limit.
Wow, Maria's journey is so inspiring. It's amazing how small daily steps can lead to such incredible outcomes. It makes me think, though, that for a lot of people, the real challenge is motivation. What about someone who learned a language for a more practical reason, like a job or moving to a new country? I imagine that kind of pressure could really drive someone.
Absolutely. I have another story I love, Linda, who was in her 50s when she got promoted at her job. She was asked to start traveling to Germany for business meetings, but the catch was, she didn't speak any German. It was a huge challenge for her, but instead of shying away from it, she embraced the opportunity. She started learning business phrases and enrolling in weekly classes to get the basics down. Every time she traveled, she would challenge herself to speak more with locals, watch German business webinars, and listen to German podcasts. Within a year, Linda was not only participating in meetings in German, but leading them with confidence. She told me that the whole experience didn't just boost her professional life, it gave her the confidence to tackle challenges she hadn't even considered before. That's the power of learning a new language. It opens so many doors, professionally and personally.
I love how Linda didn't just meet expectations, she exceeded them. It really shows that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Now, I'm sure some people listening might be thinking about huge challenges, like moving to a new country. Can you share a story about someone who really had to start from scratch, someone who faced a real struggle but powered through?
Definitely. One story that comes to mind is Ahmed, who moved to Canada in his 30s from Egypt. When he arrived, his English wasn't strong, and he knew he needed to improve it quickly to integrate into his new community and secure a job. At first, he struggled with the language barrier, especially in conversations with native speakers. But Ahmed took it step by step. He started watching YouTube videos in English, practicing basic conversations using language apps, and attending local meetups for English learners. He was incredibly disciplined, practicing every day, even if it was just for 20 minutes. Over time, he gained confidence, and within 3 years, he was fluent. He even began volunteering to translate for other immigrants who were facing similar challenges. His story is proof that no matter where you start, Dedication and persistence can get you where you want to go.
Ahmed's story is amazing. He didn't let his circumstances define him. It's all about staying consistent and pushing through those tough moments. It's so inspiring. But Sophia, what do you think was the key to these people's success? Was it just their drive, or was there something more to it?
Great question, Adam. I think the key is definitely consistency. But there's another factor that's equally important: purpose. Each of these individuals had a strong why. Whether it was reconnecting with their roots, advancing their career, or building a new life in a new country, they had a clear reason to keep going. And that purpose fueled their motivation. But here's the other part. Progress doesn't have to be huge right away. It's about embracing the process, celebrating every win, no matter how small. The power of language learning comes not just from reaching fluency, but from the growth that happens along the way. It builds your confidence, stretches your mind, and opens up new opportunities. The most successful language learners are the ones who stick with it, step by step, even when it gets tough.
That's such a great perspective. It's really about creating habits, staying motivated by a meaningful goal, and celebrating progress, no matter how small. For anyone listening right now who's feeling uncertain or thinking I'm too old or I don't have time, let these stories inspire you. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. Start small, stay consistent, and your story could be next.
Exactly. And remember, the hardest part is always taking that first step. But once you do, the rewards will follow. Your language journey is yours to shape, and no matter where you start, it's always worth it.
Now that we've covered the science behind language learning and heard some inspiring success stories, let's get into the nitty-gritty of it. Sophia, what are some of the most effective tools, tips, and tricks that people can use to make language learning easier and more enjoyable?
Great question, Adam. One of the first things I recommend is finding a tool that suits your learning style. If you're someone who learns best through repetition, apps like Duolingo or Babbel are perfect because they use spaced repetition to help you retain vocabulary and grammar. The key with these apps is consistency. Just 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a big difference. If you're more of a visual learner, Memrise is a fantastic app because it uses videos of native speakers and has interactive quizzes to help reinforce what you've learned. It's like having a language immersion experience right on your phone. And don't forget Anki, a flashcard app that allows you to create custom decks. It's great for memorizing vocabulary and is especially effective for long-term retention.
Those are some solid recommendations, Sophia. I think the trick is figuring out what works best for you. Some people thrive on apps, but others might need a more hands-on approach. What about for learners who want to practice speaking and listening? How can they make sure they're getting enough speaking practice, especially if they don't live in a country where the language is spoken?
Excellent point, Adam. Speaking and listening are two of the hardest skills to develop, but there are some fantastic tools out there. Tandem and HelloTalk are two apps that connect you with native speakers around the world, so you can practice conversations in real time. You can even find language exchange partners, where you help them with your language and they help you with theirs. It's a great way to get authentic speaking practice. If you're not into apps, another great option is finding a tutor through platforms like Italki or Preply. These sites allow you to schedule lessons with native speakers who can guide you, correct your mistakes, and help you improve your speaking skills. There's also something so motivating about having someone to talk to face-to-face, even virtually, that helps push you to speak more often.
Speaking with native speakers really accelerates learning, doesn't it? It's all about practice. But I know some people might be a little shy or worried about making mistakes. How do we overcome that fear of speaking?
The fear of making mistakes is something we all face, and it's completely natural. But here's the secret. Mistakes are a vital part of the learning process. Every mistake is an opportunity to improve. The key is to embrace it. I always tell my students that making mistakes is like stepping stones. You have to take them to move forward. To ease into speaking, try recording yourself. Start by reading a short passage aloud, or try talking about your day in the target language. Then, listen back and assess where you can improve. This helps build your confidence over time. And don't be afraid to speak slowly or ask questions. Native speakers appreciate the effort, and you'll be surprised how much they'll support you.
I love that mindset. So many learners are afraid of sounding silly, but the truth is, native speakers will be so impressed by your efforts. Now, for those who are more advanced and want to work on their fluency, are there any specific tricks for speeding up that process?
For sure. Once you're past the beginner stage, immersion is key. One of the best ways to immerse yourself is by watching movies, TV shows, and YouTube videos in your target language. But here's the trick. Turn off the subtitles at some point and try to watch and listen without relying on them. It'll force you to think in the language rather than translating everything in your head. Another trick is to challenge yourself with shadowing. This means listening to a short audio clip or video in your target language and repeating what you hear as closely as possible. It helps with pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. You can also try language immersion podcasts like Coffee Break Languages or The Fluent Show, which are structured to help you learn while enjoying content you're interested in.
That's a great tip, the shadowing technique. I know it seems tough at first, but it really helps with fluency. But let's talk about something else: motivation. I'm sure you've encountered learners who start strong but then lose steam. What are some tips for staying motivated and on track?
Staying motivated is definitely a challenge for many, but it's all about making learning fun and rewarding. One of my favorite methods is to set mini goals. For example, aim to learn 5 new words a day or memorize one useful phrase for a specific situation, like ordering food in a restaurant. Small wins build momentum and keep you excited about your progress. Another thing I recommend is to keep a language journal. Write down new words, phrases, or expressions you've learned each day. It's a great way to track progress and see how far you've come. Also, find ways to integrate your language into your everyday life. Label items around your house with their names in the target language, or change your phone's language settings to immerse yourself further.
Setting mini goals and creating an immersive environment are powerful tools. It sounds like language learning really is all about consistency, little by little. So to sum it up, what are your top 3 practical tips for anyone just starting their language learning journey?
First, consistency is key. Even just 10 to 15 minutes a day is enough to start building habits and making progress. Second, practice speaking as much as possible. Use apps, find language exchange partners, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Lastly, set clear goals and celebrate small wins. Whether it's learning a few new words each day or watching a movie in the language without subtitles, every step forward is progress.
Perfectly said, Sophia. If you can follow those tips, you're well on your way to success. It's all about creating habits, staying consistent, and enjoying the process. To anyone listening, remember, you've got the tools, the strategies, and the mindset. Now it's time to put them into action. All right, we've talked a lot about how to start and the tools to use, but every language learner faces challenges along the way. It's easy to feel motivated at first, but after a few weeks or months, things can get tough. What do you think are the biggest challenges people face, and how can we overcome them?
You're absolutely right, Adam. The excitement of starting something new can fade quickly if you're not prepared for the hurdles. One of the biggest challenges people face is lack of time. Life gets busy, and it's easy to push language learning aside. But here's the thing. You don't need hours each day. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day can make a huge difference. The trick is consistency. Set small, manageable goals, like learning 5 new words a day or practicing for just 10 minutes during your lunch break. It's about creating a habit and sticking to it.
I love that approach, consistency over intensity. Another big challenge I hear about is frustration with progress. Some learners feel like they're not improving fast enough. How can we deal with that feeling of being stuck?
The stuck feeling is so common and it's completely normal. Language learning is a long process, and it's easy to get discouraged if you're not seeing instant results. The key here is to focus on small wins. Instead of thinking about how far you still have to go, celebrate what you've achieved. Maybe you had your first conversation in the language, or you finally got through a lesson without needing to check the dictionary. Those little victories matter. Another tip is to mix things up. If you feel bored or frustrated, try changing your learning methods. Listen to podcasts, watch a TV show, or write in your language journal. Keeping things fresh and fun helps break through the frustration.
That's such a good point, celebrating small wins. It's easy to get fixated on where you want to be, but the journey is just as important. Now, what about when you feel like you're not making any progress at all? What if it feels like you've hit a plateau?
Plateaus are a tough but totally normal part of the process. Everyone experiences them. The best way to break through is to challenge yourself. Step outside of your comfort zone. If you've been focusing on reading, try having a conversation with a native speaker. If you've been practicing speaking, challenge yourself to write a short story in your target language. Doing something that pushes your boundaries will shake things up and help you see the progress you've been making. Another tip is to go back to basics. Sometimes, revisiting early lessons and relearning certain aspects can refresh your understanding and build your confidence.
That's so true, Sophia. When you hit a plateau, it's important to shake things up. It's also about pushing through that discomfort and realizing that the growth happens when you step outside of your comfort zone. What other common challenges do you see learners struggling with?
Another big one is fear of speaking. Many learners are terrified of making mistakes, especially when they're speaking with native speakers. But here's the truth. Mistakes are part of the learning process, and native speakers are often more than happy to help you. They appreciate your effort, and most will be impressed that you're trying. To overcome this fear, start by speaking in a safe environment, like with a tutor or a language partner. Gradually, as you gain more confidence, you can move on to speaking with native speakers in everyday situations. And remember, the more you practice, the less you'll fear making mistakes. They're just stepping stones on the road to fluency.
That's a great point. We all know that fear of speaking can really hold us back, but the more we practice, the easier it becomes. And it's so encouraging to hear that most native speakers are supportive. Lastly, do you think there's a challenge that people face when it comes to staying motivated over the long haul?
Definitely. Long-term motivation is one of the hardest aspects to maintain. After the initial excitement fades, it's easy to let language learning slip. One way to stay motivated is to make your language learning personal. Find ways to connect the language to your life. For example, if you love cooking, try reading recipes in your target language, or watch cooking videos in that language. Surround yourself with content that excites you. Also, joining a language community, either online or in person, can provide that sense of accountability and camaraderie. When you have others to share the journey with, you're more likely to stick with it.
That's such a powerful tip. Make it personal and connect it to things you enjoy. It's much easier to stay motivated when you're doing something you love. To wrap things up, let's leave our listeners with some final thoughts. What would you say to someone who's feeling discouraged or like they're facing too many obstacles?
I'd say don't give up. Remember, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. It's okay to feel frustrated at times, but those tough moments are what make the breakthroughs so rewarding. Stay consistent, keep pushing through the plateaus, and celebrate every small win along the way. Most importantly, enjoy the journey. Every word you learn, every conversation you have, it's a victory. And above all, know that it's never too late to start. You've got this.
Absolutely. Keep going and keep believing in yourself. You're not alone in this. Everyone faces challenges, but the reward is worth the effort. So, to anyone listening who's feeling stuck or overwhelmed, just remember, persistence is the key. Keep learning, keep practicing, and you'll get there. Now, we've covered the practical side of things, but let's talk about the real rewards of learning a new language. Sophia, what would you say are some of the most powerful benefits of learning a language, no matter your age?
Well, Adam, there are so many benefits, both practical and personal. First of all, learning a new language improves brain function at any age. Studies have shown that bilingual people tend to have better cognitive abilities, such as improved memory, better problem-solving skills, and even delayed onset of dementia. It's like giving your brain a workout every time you learn a new word or grammar rule. And then there's the personal growth aspect. Learning a language can boost your confidence in ways you might not expect. When you can communicate in a language that's not your native tongue, it shows that you're capable of stepping out of your comfort zone and facing challenges head-on. This is something that transcends just language learning. It spills over into other areas of life.
That's fascinating. So learning a language doesn't just help you speak to people, it actually makes your brain stronger? I love that. But beyond the cognitive and confidence boosts, I imagine there's a social aspect to learning a language as well.
Exactly. One of the most immediate benefits of learning a new language is the opportunity to connect with people from different cultures. It opens doors to new friendships, professional connections, and even travel experiences. Imagine being able to travel to a country and speak the local language with ease. It's such an enriching experience. And let's not forget how much easier it makes for you to understand different cultures. It's not just about being able to speak to someone. It's about understanding them, their values and their way of life. Learning a language gives you a unique perspective on the world, and that can be so fulfilling. It brings a sense of connection, not just with individuals, but with entire cultures.
That's such a powerful point. When you can understand the culture behind a language, it deepens your connection to the world. But I imagine the benefits don't stop at just making connections. What about professionally? How can learning a new language impact your career?
That's an excellent question. Being bilingual is one of the most valuable skills in today's global economy. Companies are constantly looking for employees who can speak multiple languages, especially as they expand internationally. Whether you're working in marketing, customer service, or even healthcare, knowing an additional language can make you stand out. It opens up job opportunities that you might not have otherwise had access to, and it can increase your earning potential as well. But beyond just opening doors, language skills also make you a better communicator overall. You learn to be more clear, concise, and adaptable in your communication, which can make you more effective in any professional setting.
That's so true. Speaking a second language is such a valuable skill for anyone looking to advance in their career. But what about for those who are learning a language for more personal reasons? Maybe for self-improvement or connecting with their roots.
Learning a language for personal reasons is incredibly powerful too. For one, it allows you to reconnect with your heritage. Think about someone who wants to learn their grandparents' language, or someone who wants to immerse themselves in their family's cultural traditions. It's a way of preserving family history, and it can create a deep emotional bond. Learning a language also enriches your life by broadening your worldview. It helps you think in new ways, understand different perspectives, and foster empathy for others. It's a lifelong journey of personal growth. Every time you learn something new, whether it's vocabulary, grammar, or a cultural nuance, it adds another layer to your identity. And honestly, there's something so fulfilling about knowing that you're investing in yourself.
I completely agree with you. Learning a language is a gift that keeps on giving. It's not just about speaking, it's about understanding, connecting, and growing. And I think people often overlook just how empowering it can be to gain a new skill, especially as an adult.
Yes, and there's another huge benefit that we shouldn't overlook: boosting creativity. Learning a new language encourages you to think outside the box. You need to find new ways to express yourself, and this process stimulates creative thinking. Plus, when you start learning phrases and idioms from another language, you start seeing things from a different perspective, which can lead to more innovative thinking in your personal and professional life. Lastly, there's the sense of accomplishment that comes with reaching milestones in your language learning journey. Every time you understand a phrase, speak a sentence, or have a conversation, you get to feel that sense of pride and progress. It's really a personal victory each time.
That's such a great point. The creativity and sense of accomplishment that comes with learning a language are truly underrated benefits. So, to wrap things up, Sophia, what would you say to someone who's still on the fence about starting their language learning journey? How would you encourage them to take that first step?
I would tell them this: it's never too late, and the benefits are worth every effort. Whether you're doing it for cognitive health, career advancement, personal growth, or simply the joy of connecting with others, learning a language opens up so many doors. It's a journey that will challenge you, yes, but it will also enrich your life in ways you can't even imagine yet. The first step is always the hardest, but once you start, you'll wonder why you didn't begin sooner. So, go for it. Your future self will thank you.
Exactly. Language learning is a gift that lasts a lifetime. No matter your age, it's always the right time to start. So, to all of you out there listening, take that first step today. You never know where it might take you. Now, we've touched on a lot of practical and personal benefits of learning a language, but what about the spiritual side? Sophia, how can learning a language help foster deeper spiritual connections, whether it's with God, others, or even with our own faith journey?
That's such a profound question, Adam. Language learning can absolutely play a vital role in deepening spiritual connections. For one, many of the world's religious texts, including the Bible, have been translated into multiple languages, but there's something truly special about reading them in their original languages. Whether it's Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic, understanding the original language of sacred texts can bring new depth and meaning to Scripture. Learning these languages can allow believers to connect more intimately with the spiritual messages embedded in the text. You can uncover nuances, phrases, and meanings that might get lost in translation. It's like peeling back layers to discover more about the nature of God, His Word, and how it relates to us personally. Moreover, when you learn a new language, you open yourself to a broader community of faith. You can connect with believers from different cultures and denominations who speak the same spiritual language, even though they might be geographically far away.
I love that idea of connecting more deeply with Scripture through its original language. It reminds me of how powerful language can be in conveying not just words, but the heart behind them. But I think you're also touching on something really special here: the idea of global fellowship. How can language learning help us connect spiritually with people in different parts of the world?
Exactly. Language is a bridge, and when we learn a new language, we have the opportunity to cross that bridge into the lives and hearts of believers from different cultures. For instance, if you're learning Spanish, you can connect with a community of believers in Latin America or Spain. If you're learning Arabic, you can engage with the Christian communities in the Middle East or North Africa. When we speak the language of others, we not only break down barriers, but also honor their unique spiritual experiences. In a sense, learning their language allows us to meet them where they are, spiritually and culturally, and form a more profound bond. This kind of global fellowship strengthens the body of Christ, as we share in the same faith despite our different backgrounds and traditions.
I love how you put that. Language is a bridge that helps us not only understand the words of others, but also connect with their hearts. And speaking of connections, do you think learning a new language can also help in our personal prayer life or our relationship with God?
Absolutely, Adam. A new language can significantly enrich our personal prayer life. When you learn a new language, you start to see the world through a different lens. Your spiritual vocabulary expands, and you begin to express yourself in new ways, whether that's in prayer, worship, or meditation. For example, in a different language, you might find new ways to express gratitude, praise, or even repentance. The act of learning new words can deepen your understanding of your own faith. It's also powerful to use the language you're learning in your prayers. You could pray in the language you're studying, which allows you to connect more fully with God in a different way. Plus, God is not bound by language, but using a new language in your prayer life can help you approach Him with a fresh heart and perspective.
That's such a beautiful thought. Language deepening our connection with God. It's almost like an intimate way of offering our hearts and voices to Him in a new language, opening up new expressions of love and worship. And you mentioned earlier about how language connects us globally with others in the body of Christ. How does that look in practice? How can language learning create unity in the church?
Language learning can truly unite the body of Christ in powerful ways. When you learn the language of others, you start to see beyond the surface of cultural differences and focus on what binds us together in faith. For example, imagine a missionary traveling to a country where they don't speak the language. By learning that language, they gain access to that community in a much deeper way. They can share the gospel, build relationships, and support believers in a way that would be impossible without understanding their language. Even within our own communities, language learning creates opportunities for service. Churches can connect with international immigrants or refugees, offering support and ministry in their native tongue. This fosters a deeper sense of inclusion and belonging, reminding us that we're all part of one body, regardless of the language we speak. It's a beautiful way to live out the message of unity in Christ.
Absolutely, Sophia. Language learning helps us move beyond barriers and shows us the true heart of God's mission, which is to bring all people into His family, regardless of background or nationality. For anyone listening, do you have any advice for someone who's looking to use language learning in a more spiritual context? Whether they want to learn for missionary work or just to connect with others in their faith?
First and foremost, I'd say, start with purpose. Be clear about why you want to learn the language. Is it to deepen your personal relationship with God? Is it to serve others in the church or in the mission field? Having a clear purpose will keep you motivated. Also, don't be afraid to immerse yourself in the culture and faith of others. Language learning isn't just about words. It's about understanding and embracing a different way of seeing the world. Finally, remember that every step you take in learning a language is an act of service. Whether you're using it to pray, share your faith, or connect with someone, you're advancing God's kingdom by breaking down barriers and building relationships. Language isn't just a tool, it's a ministry.
Such great advice, Sophia. Language learning really is a ministry in itself. It opens doors to new relationships, helps us understand God's word more deeply, and brings us closer to other believers around the world. So, to everyone listening, remember that language learning isn't just about mastering words. It's about fostering deeper spiritual connections and serving God and others in ways you never thought possible. Start your journey today and see how God can use it for His glory. All right, Sophia, we've had an incredible conversation so far, and now it's time to hear from our listeners. We've gathered some questions from our audience that I think a lot of people will relate to. Let's dive in. Our first question comes from Jessica in Texas, and she asks, I'm in my 40s, and I've always wanted to learn Spanish, but I feel like it's too late for me to start. Is it really worth it at my age?
Great question, Jessica. First of all, I want to say it's never too late to start. In fact, Starting at 40 or beyond can be a great advantage. By that age, you've likely developed strong critical thinking skills and the ability to learn in a structured way. You know how to manage your time, so consistency won't be as difficult. Plus, many people report that learning a language as an adult enhances cognitive abilities and can help keep the mind sharp. If Spanish is something you're passionate about, start small, stay consistent, and celebrate every victory. You'll be amazed at how much progress you can make.
That's a great answer, Sophia. It's all about staying consistent and finding the right motivation. Let's move on to our next question from Michael in New York. I've tried learning French multiple times, but I keep getting stuck and giving up. How can I stay motivated when I hit a wall?
Michael, I completely understand your frustration. Hitting a wall is such a common part of language learning, and it can be discouraging. The key here is to change your approach. If you're stuck, try mixing things up. Maybe shift from reading textbooks to watching French movies, listening to podcasts, or chatting with a language partner. You could also set small, achievable goals instead of focusing on the end goal. For example, aim to learn 10 new words a week, or try to have a 5-minute conversation. Sometimes when we're stuck, we forget to celebrate the progress we've already made. Also, be patient with yourself. It's a journey, not a race.
I love the idea of celebrating small wins, Sophia. It's so easy to get discouraged when we feel like we're not moving fast enough. Our next question comes from Laura in California, who says, I've been learning German for 6 months now, but I feel like I'm not progressing as quickly as I'd hoped. Should I just give up?
Laura, I want to reassure you that 6 months is a great start. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint, so it's totally normal to feel like progress is slow at times. The key is to evaluate what you're doing and make adjustments if needed. Have you been actively practicing speaking? Sometimes we focus so much on grammar and vocabulary that we forget to use the language in conversation, which is where the real progress happens. Find ways to practice with native speakers, or even record yourself speaking in German. The more you immerse yourself in the language, the faster you'll see progress. And remember, language learning is full of ups and downs. What feels like a plateau now might just be the calm before a breakthrough.
Such great advice, Sophia. Sometimes we just need a little perspective shift to push through those frustrating moments. Our next question is from Jack in Florida. I'm really shy about speaking in my target language because I'm afraid of making mistakes. How can I overcome this fear and actually start speaking?
Jack, this is such a common fear. Let me first say, mistakes are part of the process. Everyone makes them, no matter how fluent they are. The key is to reframe mistakes as opportunities to learn, not failures. Start small by practicing with someone you feel comfortable with, like a language partner or a tutor. You can even practice in front of the mirror. The more you speak, the more confident you'll become. And remember, language learners are often much more forgiving than we expect. Native speakers are usually just happy you're trying, and most will help you along the way. So, take that first step and let go of the fear of making mistakes. It's how you grow.
Great advice. It's so true that we often hold ourselves back because we're afraid of looking silly, but in reality, people appreciate the effort. All right, we have time for one last question, and this one comes from Sarah in Chicago. What's the best way to stay consistent with my language learning when life gets busy?
Sarah, that's a great question. Life does get busy, but the beauty of language learning is that it doesn't require hours a day. It's all about consistency, even in small doses. Try setting aside just 10 to 15 minutes a day to practice. Whether it's reviewing vocabulary, listening to a podcast, or practicing speaking, those little moments add up. Another tip is to integrate your language learning into your daily routine. For example, label items around the house in your target language, or listen to language audio while you're commuting. It's about making language learning a natural part of your day, not something you have to carve out extra time for.
Such a great tip. Integrating it into daily life makes it feel less like a chore and more like a habit. Thank you, Sophia, for sharing such valuable insights, and a big thank you to all of our listeners for sending in your questions. We know everyone faces challenges when learning a new language, but remember, it's all about taking small, consistent steps and finding joy in the journey.
Exactly. And don't forget that it's okay to struggle along the way. Those struggles are part of what make the progress so rewarding. So, keep going and don't be afraid to reach out when you need support. You're not alone in this journey.
All right, listeners. Now it's time to get you involved in the conversation. We want you to actively practice what we've been discussing, and Sophia and I have come up with a few interactive language challenges for you to try out. These challenges are designed to be fun, engaging, and most importantly, help you make real progress. Ready, Sophia?
Absolutely. The first challenge is the daily 5-minute conversation challenge. For this one, we want you to find someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, or even a language partner, and commit to having a 5-minute conversation in your target language every single day. Don't worry about perfection. Just speak. Start simple. Introduce yourself. Ask about someone's day, or talk about your favorite food. It doesn't have to be long, but it will definitely get you in the habit of speaking and thinking in the language.
Yes, starting small makes it so much easier to build momentum. Challenge number 2 is the Vocabulary Boost Challenge. Each week, pick 5 new words in your target language and aim to use them in different sentences every day. Whether it's writing a journal entry, texting a friend, or talking to yourself, actively using these new words helps them stick. The more you use them, the more natural they'll feel.
Great one, Adam. And for the third challenge, let's try the Listening Immersion Challenge. Every day for the next week, listen to at least 10 to 15 minutes of content in your target language, whether it's a podcast, YouTube video, or even a song. The goal here isn't to understand everything, but to let your ears get used to the sound, rhythm, and flow of the language. Over time, you'll start picking up more and more, and your listening skills will improve tremendously.
Exactly. Immersion is such a powerful tool. Now, we've got one final challenge for our listeners, the Language Selfie Challenge. This one's fun and interactive. Take a short video of yourself speaking in your target language and post it to your social media or send it to a friend or language partner. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it's a great way to practice speaking on the spot and track your progress. Plus, you'll feel great sharing your learning journey with others.
These challenges are all about making language learning a part of your daily life. You don't need hours of study to make progress. Small actions every day can lead to big results. We'd love to hear about your experiences, so don't forget to tag us on social media or send us an email with your progress.
Let's do this, listeners. Take these challenges, implement them into your routine, and let us know how you're doing. And remember, every step counts no matter how small. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll be here cheering you on every step of the way.
All right, Adam. We've covered some great interactive challenges, but now let's talk about something crucial for long-term success. Habits. Building the right habits can make all the difference when it comes to maintaining momentum in your language learning journey. After all, anyone can learn a new language for a short time, but the real magic happens when you turn language learning into a lifelong practice. So, what habits can help us stay on track for the long haul?
Great question, Sophia. The first habit I always recommend is consistency. And by that, I mean making language learning a part of your daily routine, even if it's just for 10 to 15 minutes. The key here is not to overwhelm yourself with long study sessions, but rather to make small, manageable amounts of practice a daily habit. Whether it's reviewing flashcards, listening to a short podcast episode, or writing a couple of sentences in your target language, those small sessions add up over time and keep you on the right path.
Absolutely. And consistency doesn't just apply to study time, it also applies to review. One of the worst things you can do when learning a language is to learn something new and never look at it again. That's why I recommend setting aside a few minutes each day or week to review what you've already learned. This could mean going through your vocabulary list, rereading notes, or revisiting the grammar points you struggled with earlier. The more you review, the more deeply the material gets ingrained in your memory, making it easier to recall when you need it.
Exactly. And speaking of review, another habit that's worked well for me is keeping a language journal. Every day, I jot down a few sentences about what happened in my day, what I learned, or what I want to work on next. Not only does this give me a sense of accomplishment, but it also helps me practice forming sentences and using new words in context. The key here is to keep it simple and avoid the pressure of writing perfectly. This is about expressing yourself and getting comfortable using the language.
I love that. A language journal is such a great way to stay engaged. Another important habit is to mix up your learning methods. When we first start learning a language, it's easy to get stuck in one mode, like only doing textbook exercises or focusing solely on speaking. But to make things more enjoyable and effective, I recommend varying your methods. One day, maybe focus on listening with podcasts or movies. The next day, practice speaking with a language partner. Another day, do some writing or vocabulary drills. Keeping things fresh will help keep you motivated.
Yes. And that leads me to a very important habit that helps with long-term motivation: setting small, achievable goals. Instead of focusing on the big picture and getting overwhelmed by how much there is to learn, break your progress down into smaller milestones. For instance, set a goal to learn 50 new words in a month, or to complete a conversation with a language partner without switching back to your native language. Achieving these small goals will give you a sense of accomplishment and drive you to continue learning.
That's a great point, Adam. And once you achieve a goal, don't forget to celebrate. Rewarding yourself for progress, no matter how small, is so important for staying motivated. It could be something simple like treating yourself to a favorite snack after finishing a language book, or even taking a day off to relax. Celebrating your progress creates positive reinforcement, and it reminds you that learning a language is a journey worth investing in.
Exactly. Celebrating wins is essential. And as you continue on your language learning journey, it's important to embrace the idea of making mistakes. Too many learners get discouraged when they make errors, but the truth is, mistakes are part of the process. They are opportunities to learn and improve. If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not pushing yourself enough. So, build the habit of seeing mistakes as stepping stones toward fluency rather than setbacks.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I think one of the best habits you can develop is embracing a growth mindset. This is the idea that you believe your abilities can improve over time with effort and perseverance. If you approach language learning with the mindset that every effort brings you closer to your goal, whether or not you're perfect at it, you're setting yourself up for long-term success.
Absolutely. The more you shift your focus from "I have to be perfect" to "I'm improving every day," the easier it becomes to stick with it. And don't forget to build in some flexibility. Life happens, and there may be days when you don't get to study, but that doesn't mean you failed. The key is getting back into the habit as soon as you can. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes. And last but certainly not least, it's important to stay curious about the language and culture. Explore different aspects of the language outside of traditional learning. Watch movies, read books, cook a recipe, or follow social media accounts in your target language. This helps you see the language as more than just a tool for communication, but as a gateway to a new culture and way of thinking.
Such a great point, Sophia. Staying curious fuels your excitement for learning and keeps the experience enjoyable. It's about immersing yourself in the language and making it a part of your life rather than something separate you have to do. So, as you develop these habits, remember: consistency, review, small goals, embracing mistakes, and curiosity are all key ingredients for long-term success.
Exactly. And when you make these habits part of your daily life, you'll see that language learning becomes a much more natural and rewarding experience. It's not just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar. It's about integrating the language into your world and enjoying the process.
So let's recap. The best habits for language learning success include consistency, regular review, mixing up your methods, setting small goals, celebrating achievements, and embracing mistakes. And of course, staying curious about the language and culture around it. These habits will ensure that your language learning journey doesn't just start strong, but continues to grow and evolve over time.
That's right, Adam. Remember, the journey is just as important as the destination. Enjoy the process, stay committed, and you'll see amazing results.
Wow, Sophia, what an incredible conversation today. We've explored so many aspects of language learning, from breaking myths and sharing inspiring stories to practical tips, overcoming challenges, and even diving into the power of community. I don't know about you, but I feel more inspired than ever to keep pushing forward on my own language journey.
Same here, Adam. And I hope our listeners feel the same. If there's one takeaway from today's discussion, it's that learning a new language is more than just memorizing words. It's about growth, connection, and discovering a new way to see the world. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned learner, remember that every step forward is progress. And don't forget, you're never alone in this journey.
That's right. The road might not always be easy, but it's always worth it. So, to all our listeners, we challenge you to take the next step today. Whether it's signing up for a language class, practicing a few sentences, or finding a community to join, take that step and embrace the journey ahead. You've got this.
And don't forget, we'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest takeaway from today's episode? Or maybe you have a question, success story, or tip you'd like to share. Reach out to us on social media or through our website. We'd love to feature your input in a future episode.
Absolutely. And remember to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss our next episode. We've got so much more in store for you. And if you found today's conversation helpful, consider leaving us a review. It helps us reach more people like you who are passionate about learning and growing.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're on your commute, relaxing at home, or practicing your language skills as you listen, we're honored to be part of your journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember, it's never too late to learn something new.
Until next time, keep striving, stay inspired, and most importantly, enjoy the process. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now. We'll see you in the next episode.